I want to welcome you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us on your lunch hour, and definitely want to welcome you into this virtual workspace. This is our second um, Healing City Lunch and Learn Brown Bag session. If you weren't here for the first one, that's no problem. You can definitely check it out. We have all of the sessions recorded and they can be accessed on demand. We're so thrilled that you are here on today. I am Melissa Buckley. I'm one of the members of the Healing City Baltimore movement. I am also a faculty member at Coppin State University. I am a licensed social worker. And so, from that perspective, these opportunities to engage in collegial learning and shared knowledge is a really exciting opportunity for me. And I hope that people will join us. I mean, first of all, let's be honest, we got to get CEs, and this is a free CE. And we all know how it is, right when it's time for renewal, people are scrambling to find CEs. Oh, that not you guys, just me? Okay, no problem. But it is a fabulous opportunity. And to that end, I want to acknowledge our partners, Pro Bono Counseling Services. They are the ones who are assisting us with the issuing of the continuing education verification. All right. So, it looks like I might just a quick technological thing here. Okay, Donna, I'm gonna have to walk through it with you in front of everybody. So when you click on share screen, what happens? Did you just click that first option, desktop one? Ah, there we go. Fantastic. Whew, listen, like technology makes me nervous. My students know Dr. Buckley needs help when it comes to technology. It's definitely my Achilles heel. So if it didn't work just now, Donna, I don't know what we were going to do. All right. I am very pleased to introduce our presenter for this afternoon's session. Some of you may know her. She is also a part of the Healing City movement. She is a licensed social worker, and her name is Donna Batkis, and she will be talking to us today about healing, eco mapping for healing, as you see on your screen. So this is a 60-minute session. So with no further ado, I am going to turn it over to Donna. Thanks so much, Donna.
Thank you so much. I apologize in advance for any kind of technological glitches, but I do have a son who is here ready to put these things on, so I know how to outsource. And so it's important because
see if he'll come and join me at Coppin when class starts.
yeah, no, he was able to set up stuff in my new office yesterday, and he's here today. And my other kid, my technological daughter, was able to help me figure stuff out. So anyway, yes, I was about as nervous as could be, but I'm so happy to be able to spend a lunchtime with you all. For those who can put on their videos, great. If you don't feel comfortable with it, that's fine too. But yeah, I would ask that everybody keep themselves muted unless they have something to say, because otherwise, errant things happen, and I'm sure that something will happen. I've got a dog that might bark or a cat that might come flying across my screen. One never knows. But anyway, without further ado, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to present a technique and something that I'm really wanted to share as a tool for peace and wellness. It's an unusual take on a very old school kind of a technique. Literally, you could do this with paper, a napkin, pencil, crayons, it doesn't matter. As long as you have some kind of like a surface and a marking tool, you'll be good. So the title of this is Echo Mapping for Healing. As part of Healing City Baltimore, I've had the opportunity to work both intentionally with the community as well as with providers to help us sort out how can we best find a way to promote healing in our beautiful city amongst our beautiful people, but also to really work on changing some of those structures that are behind the driving forces behind some of these agony and the pain of violence that we've been facing. So I didn't want to get in too deep into the woods about, the structural, the impact of structural racism, the impact of the unfair practices and policies over time that have resulted in the oppression of so many precious people. But I wanted to present a tool that you could use to capture it, depending on how you want. So this is something you can personalize and use any way you want, but there's some real provisos here. So, and then, so I'd like to start sharing my screen when so promoting mental, social, and emotional wellness, healing and resilience using echo mapping as a tool for empowerment. And I got a whole bunch as my, it's like my kids say, I need a decoder ring after my initials. But it's just basically, as I said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I also hold a master's in pastoral ministry, as well as I'm a qualified bilingual speaker, and I'm a bilingual social worker. I speak Spanish and English. So I've had the opportunity to work with our wonderful multicultural city. And so I would like to, I'm hoping that this will continue, and I've got to figure out how I can get to the next slide. If I can do that, we're on the road. I did it. So just the lunch and healing part, taking time to nurture and heal. So this is going to be an interactive and a physical kind of thing where I'm going to have you doing some tasks. But this is an hour for you to nurture and heal. So the context of the echo map in my mind is helping us work through some solutions. Exposure to street crime can emotionally and physically transform one's perspective with serious mental health consequences like recurrent panic attacks, PTSD, substance abuse, and depression. A community can collectively react to trauma similarly to individuals with hypervigilance and fear as dominant sentiments. So let's think for a moment how, Healing City Baltimore came to be, and all the focus is to promote wellness and empowerment of individuals, communities, and to really call on the structure to make this a healing city. As we move towards a healing community, let's take a moment to refocus and appreciate our power, our personal power for healing and kindness. So I'd like you all to take a position that's very comfortable for you, whatever that might be. If it's settling back in your chair, laying down on the ground, it doesn't really matter. Whatever is a good space for you. You can close your eyes or just stare at a space on the wall, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to be reading the Meta for Loving Kindness. And there are 3 parts of this. And this Meta for Loving Kindness is sort of the basis for a lot of work with mindfulness. And so it's to put us all in a place where we can capture the strength of love and kindness, and in this case, loving kindness. Our best tools are ourselves. So take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Breathe in, breathe out. And this is for you to concentrate on yourself and to give yourself some loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be free from suffering. May I be well. May I be at peace. May I be joyful. Sit with that for a moment. Now think about someone else in this world that perhaps needs some loving kindness. It could be a person, it could be a pet, it could be anything. Some other person, other being that really could benefit from some loving kindness. Perhaps someone that you're having trouble with. Again, breathe in, breathe out. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. May you be at peace. And may you be joyful. And now let's bring it out to the whole world. Think about what you'd like healed in this world. Be it the environment, structures, beings, animals, the planet. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be well. And may all beings be at peace. May all beings be joyful. Now, as we sit here and just drink that in, the metta for loving kindness is important, as it's the kind of the underpinning structure of remembering that you need to be kind to yourself before you can really be kind to anyone else. So I'm inviting you all to just take this hour to be super good to you. So for this particular hour, where the goals and objectives are as follows: to familiarize participants with echo mapping or eco mapping, depending on how you like to say it, as an intervention tool derived from social work practice, families and individuals. Expand participants' understanding of echo mapping as a method of engagement for groups and community conversations. And the third goal is to how to adapt eco mapping as a tool to help empower the groups and communities you work with to make healing changes in their environments. So we're going to start with a little pre-test, and nobody has to own up to anything. This is just for your own edification. So, have you ever heard of an echo map? Number one. Number two, do you know what echo mapping is used for? And number three, how can echo mapping help you personally and as a member of a community in identifying threats, resources, and solutions? Just take a minute to kind of jot that answer down. 1, 2, and 3. We'll come back to that at the end. Okay. So have you ever heard of an eco map? Do you know what eco map is using? Eco mapping is used for, and how can eco mapping help you personally and as a member of a community in identifying threats, resources, and solutions? Okay, great. Whoops. Went backwards. Okay, so here's the, next 40 minutes or so, I can answer those questions. So Donna Batkis, that would be me. I'm not sure how this kind of bio part got in here, but I am a licensed clinical social worker and trauma healing expert. I'm here to introduce participants to ecological mapping. I was taught this tool when I was a student at Columbia School of Social Work about 1 billion years ago. You'd have to do some major, work in archaeology to find my beginnings there. So anyway, we didn't have computers then. We didn't have any fancy anything. We just pretty much had ourselves and our paper charts. I'm captivated by, and one of the reasons I chose to go to the Columbia School of Social Work is they are, Columbia is very invested in the ecological model of social work. And so that is more looking at people in the environment. So eco-mapping comes from the person, the environment perspective. And so ecological systems theory in social work. So, and the thing I like about ecological systems is you can apply this not only to, people's kind of concrete basic needs, but you can also use it as a tool for looking at other ways that people have different situations in their lives that they want to look at. So the person in an environment is like the person in their situation, whatever that might be. So when we're talking environment and ecological mapping, we're not really talking about the birds, the bees, although that's part of it, but we're talking about that actual environment in which someone finds themselves, whether they're in the middle of the country or the middle of an urban area. Whether they're alone or they're in the middle of a family, et cetera, what kind of family. So this is very flexible. One of the things that I really loved about this as a young social worker and new to the field is really looking at, it was a great tool for me to find out specifically with a one-on-one patient, what really motivates them, or what are some of the things that are important to them. So I would like to invite you to also use it as a tool for engagement and getting to know. It's a really good way to get to know somebody, what counts in their life and what they find they really want eliminated. So, Annie Hartman is somebody from the Smith School of Social Work, who's really the person who came up with eco-mapping. And there's a lot of things you can find out. And if you want more information, you can always contact me later. But there's plenty of stuff in the schools of social work literature. So now this is the active part. Go grab a pen and some blank paper. So scurry off. If you don't have it, go get it. You can use plain paper. So great. It could be 2 seconds more. Go grab it. Okay. So by mapping on paper, the resources available for social support, along with what's lacking, the ECO-Map graphically aids participants' understanding of the relationships or connections that might help them reach their full potential within their ecological landscape. And that's a fancy schmancy way of saying, let's figure out what people have and what they don't have. Okay. So now with your little paper, exercise number 1. I said this one's personal, so this is you don't have to share any of this stuff. I'm really more interested in you learning the process. So in this exercise, put your name in the center of a large circle and place people, family members, whomever you want, and in the middle next to you. And then add smaller circles surrounding the center circle, which represent the people, organizations, people, places, and things in one's ecological environment. So those outer circles include something that the institutions or people that exist and impact your environment. People on the corner store, church, library, rec center, school, park, friends, I don't know, horseback riding stable. I see my friend Carrie there. All sorts of, whatever is important, like somehow important to you. So take about, I'm going to give it a minute. Maybe 2 to 3 minutes to fill this out. So what you can do graphically is put yourself at the center. I'll grab a piece of paper and do it myself to show you also. Be right back. we got that done. So like, I'll show you a picture of mine. I don't know if you can see this at all, but I have my name in the middle. And I'm like kids, husband, dog. And then on the outside, I put, things that affect my life. Traffic court's one of them. I put that in there on purpose. Kayaking's another. All right, so that's like for a silly example. So now review your map. Is there someone or some institution or some factor that you'd like to have a better relationship with? So if you do, you want, what you can do is just review that and then take a minute. If you haven't thought of something, jot it down, put it back in there, wherever you want it. Connect the strong or desired relationships with a solid line. So you're like, yes, I want to have a good relationship. In my world, I want to do more kayaking. So I'm going to go ahead. I know you can't really see it, but that's more of a strong line. And I don't want to really have a relationship with traffic court. Somebody who will remain nameless used my car and ran a red light. It wasn't me. But that's a relationship I'd really rather not have. And so it does cause stress in my life. So how about a more distant, there's somebody you want to have or factor you want to have a more distant relationship with, you want to move away from. When I've done this with my clients or patients, sometimes, especially if they're involved with child and family services, they really may not want to have be in under the supervision of CPS, or maybe they want to have a more distant relationship with some people who they consider less helpful in their lives or more, kind of toxic. So you'd connect the stressed or undesired relationship with the jagged line. So when I have the things on the outside, it's not necessarily all relationships or things that you really want, but they're things that are in your life. Okay. So following along there. So if you have any questions up to this point, you can put it in the chat. A little bit later, we'll stop and review things, see if there's any questions. So step 3, review your map again. And now put a heart around the people, places, and institutions that make you feel safe or where you feel safe. Some people feel safe in their bedroom. Some people feel safe in their park. Some people feel safe nowhere. So this is your basic echo map. So you can add or subtract at any point, but take a moment to see where you find the most strength. So this is about the resilience piece. So look at where in your map, you've identified people, places, things that that are important to you, that you want to have better relationships with. You want to maybe have more distant relationships with, and then that includes any like institutions. Like some people may not feel comfortable with police. Some people do feel comfortable with the police, so it's like, what makes you feel safe? So this is as I said, this is your echo map. So it's very personalized. And so, this is something you can use just as a first step. Okay. Now, I don't know what happened. I have to fix this. Somehow this text got gigantic. In 2016, I worked on a project called Unidos y Seguros, which means in Spanish, it's got a double meaning. It's united and safe, but also united and like well, okay? Safe and well. I have briefly introduced you to the concept. Now you got the map of you personally consider your environment, your ecological situation. Whoops, sorry. Now let's construct another map. So take another blank piece of paper. And this one, I really wanted to reflect more about your community. So again, draw a large circle and place yourself, your name in the center. And in the inner circle, place these people, places, things, institutions, etc., that make you feel safe and secure. Let's take a minute or two to really reflect on that. That should take 2-3 seconds, up to 2 minutes. In the outer part of the circle, put the places, people, things, institutions that represent danger, threat, fear, or violence. And then add the resources you have that can help improve your safety, your wellness, and sense of wholeness. For example, somebody might think of danger and threat and fear and violence just as like acts that come from outside. It could also be illness, things that will harm you. Could be diabetes, could be something like COVID, for example. I know everyone, we've been living in this virtual world, and I didn't want to make this only about COVID, but I also don't want that to be, that's a real threat. And it's caused some real harm and been the basis of some incredible violence. But think about, you know, things that make you feel safe and secure. Could be good transportation. Could be clean streets, could be anything, well-lit streets. But just add the resources that you have, you know. You can also put imaginary resources in there, things that you wish for. And so it's important to kind of tap into what would be nice. It may not exist, but it. Now, at this point, I'd like to give it a second to see if everybody's done. Let's do 1 more minute with this exercise. And then after that, I'd like to open it up to discussion. Melissa, I'm not sure how many people are on right now because I'm doing the screen sharing. I could.
Were you asking me?
Oh, I guess there's 23 participants.
Oh, okay.
So there's 23 of you. And I'd like to be able to hear some feedback from people if they feel comfortable doing this. So, but let's, whoops, I went ahead one. So this is a different kind of a map again. Okay. If people are done, like do a little thumbs up. Okay. Still working on it. I'll give it another minute or two. I sure do hope people had a chance to eat. Whoops, I'm doing that. All right. Okay, I'll assume everyone's finished at this point. So you've got this new kind of map, okay? So let's look at it. You can add and embellish as you want to go along. So what resources are available? What barriers exist to be able to access these resources? Could be policy, could be money, could be it doesn't exist. Wi-Fi, for example, it's a safety issue. Who are the change makers or decision makers in your environment? So that would be, you know, yourself, of course, but also the local community association, the city council, who in the city government, clergy, whomever. Just think about who are the decision makers and change makers. They're not always the same people, but generally they're connected. So it could be like the ACLU or Casa Maryland, or you name it, NAMI for mental health. It could be, you know, or just individuals that you might know that are powerful advocates. But somebody who, like, people or institutions that, or offices, as it were, that can actually make changes. I'll give you an example from my life. I spent a whole lot of time, you know, fussing about why this or that isn't happening in the area in which I live. And then I'd ask myself, well, how often do I actually talk to the person representing me here? Never, or pretty much never. And so the question is, do I want to get involved? Do I want to write a letter? Do I want to show up at a town hall meeting, stuff like that? It's something, one of those things like, who are the change makers? And and as I said, it doesn't always, it's not always who you think it is. Like, oh, so it takes a little reflection. So optimally, each one of you will visually capture a sense of empowerment. So do you, you know, think about it. Do you feel an increased connection to your community? Have you noticed anything surprising? Like, wow, I didn't think, you know, garbage collection was an important part of my safety net, or wow, I don't even know who my council person is. Or, you know, is there anything surprising? What have you confirmed what you already knew already? I imagine you're all such, you know, you're all very well connected, integrated, smart people, active people. So has it already confirmed what you already knew? And if that's the case, great. Yes. Okay. So now the last step is to overlap and integrate your maps. Now there is something fancy. There's a GIS system that, like, you can buy. They also have it free. I didn't include it here, but there are computer programs that you can use to combine all these things, which I think is very, you know, very helpful. But for this purposes, it's just a way of looking at things visually and graphically. So you take both maps you developed and integrate them. So ideally you could use, so that you could use like either a separate one and look in how you can integrate it, or put them side by side. It's up to you. Ideally, you could use multicolored pencils or markers to highlight areas that represent areas of your ecological situation that need more attention support. I'm a mad person with a highlighter. I just like highlight everything. I'm like, to do. So what is going well? What needs more work? And who can make that happen? So hopefully, you know, just take a minute to work on that. That should take another couple of, maybe 2 minutes. Already there. Okay, thumbs up if you've done this. Okay, I'll take a little brief poll in the group. Still need more work? Don't put your thumbs up. Okay, I'll give it another minute or two. Okay, let's all come on back together. It's 12:38, so I'm going to be very mindful of your time. I know you've taken time out for this. I'm most grateful and honored to spend the time with you. So let's look at this. Okay. Whoops. Not sure what happened to my screen sharing. There we go. So I wanted to see if we could, maybe I could stop sharing for a minute and open the floor for questions. I'm a little reluctant to minimize it because I'm not 100% sure I know how to start it again, but I'll try my best. Okay, so so I just wanted to let you know that, I mean, I do believe that this is being recorded. So in full disclosure, just make sure that if you want your questions recorded, that's okay. So I just wanted to, you can unmute yourself if you'd like. Do you have any questions so far? And I guess the main question is, I looked at this, is similar to the Braun. Oh, excuse me. I have no idea what's going on with my computer. Okay. Excuse me. In terms of the questions that I'd like you guys to ponder is, have you ever done this before? And if you have, can you share with the group anybody that you know, like the impact it's made in your clinical career or just in your personal life? So looking for a volunteer to talk about that. And if no one has had an opportunity, so how many people, I'd like to see a thumbs up. How many people have had the experience of using an echo map before? Pretty much nobody. Okay, so this is, so have you found that, have you found anything surprising about what you've encountered in this process? Or something not surprising in a bad way, but a good way?
Not surprising, but I think it's a very nice, clear way of visualizing a support system and areas of that need to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so from a perspective of like the micro, the interpersonal, it's a wonderful tool. For the more meta part, I'll talk about that next, but I just want to know, thank you, Carrie. Anyone else have something to share?
And I have never used, this tool, but as Carrie said, I found out, very, useful tool. And I think that, these days when we do a lot of virtual therapy, we can so easy to communicate with patients, because we can put everything like you are doing right now, share the screen, and the patient would see everything, and it will be much easier to get patients attention to
Mhm.
everything what might be very useful.
Yeah, I think it's like it's one of the things like the different modalities that we use in therapy. I mean, some people use, it sounds like especially in child, like you use sand trays and all different kinds of modalities. And I think that when we get to working with adults, and even I found it really helpful to use this with little kids. They love it. But also just with adults, a lot of times being able to visualize who is and who isn't in my world, what is and what isn't in my world, really can be helpful and healing. Sometimes they're surprised at how much support they actually do have. Sometimes you really can see how alone they really are. And so I think it's a very important tool for understanding like where somebody's at, even if it's just, especially if it's their perspective. They may be in a world filled with helpers, but if their experience is of isolation, and especially during this time of COVID, so many people are suffering from isolation. It's important. And thank you. Anyone else like to share? Any reflections? Yes, Catrice.
Hi. Hi, Donna. Hi, everyone. My
Hi.
name is Catrice Greer. I am not a clinician like most of you. I'm a literary artist. I did work towards studying to become a clinician, but due to the lucky incident of a car accident, I didn't get to finish. So, what I will say is, what I do is, I did learn this when I was studying in my clinical classes. Um, but in what I do now, writing for wellness and well-being, which is interesting because the meta part that you started off with, I think it's six phrases.
Mhm.
Um, I work with a partner in Latino, Scotland, where we do wellness for well-being writing, and one of the programs is called Mindfulness and Writing, and we do that for the first 20 minutes. We use those techniques, so people around the world are using that very successfully. And as far as this echo mapping, for me, outside of what I learned years ago, it does help me in what I'm doing now, because I want to echo what you were saying. Some people are visual learners. Everyone learns differently. People visualize or take in information differently. And for visual learners and working with other creatives, it is very impactful to see how things not only are within our world, but how it overlaps. It's very hard for people who are not visual learners to integrate all of this disparate information that seems to be swirling around them. It's nice to see, sort of like when we were talking about even diagrams, what is that overlap? And then talk about that area of overlap and how impactful that is. And doing wellness work with people in terms of writing, that's the area of focus. Usually that overlap of whether that is something that is bringing joy to their lives, or it is the area of overlap that is the most stressful part of their lives, and creates a nice area of focus for us to start. So that would be my feedback for today, and thank you for this session. Good to
Thank
meet all
you.
of you.
That's yeah, I'm so grateful for your input. Yes, definitely. That because one of the reasons I like it is because I'm a very visual person. I was a dancer when I was young, and I was also I studied fine arts undergraduate, and I don't really use art very much, and I wouldn't say an echo map is really artistic. However, it could be, and I think that but it brings out that personal stuff in you. So thank you for the feedback. That is awesome. Anybody else? And then otherwise I'm just going to go back to hypothetically screen sharing. We'll find out. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the screen share and I'm hoping that this is true. Okay. So that's sort of like your basics of the echo mapping, and like you can see hopefully that it can be used for your own self, but also with the use of another person, but also when you're working with large groups of people. It's great to have people sit down and develop this in groups. And I'll explain that in a minute, one of the projects that we used it in. So one of the important things is like looking at like echo mapping for stress reduction. So the idea of like finding, like using your echo map, doing a separate echo map if you want for things that are, you know, just you can personalize it anyway. What's stressful and what's stress reducing. So in the middle circle next to you, your little heart, your name with the heart, put your, you know, what reduces stress, and outside what's stressful. Do the same thing, is try to figure out in your map, can you identify people, places, things, etc. It can help reduce your stress. You know, I'm mindful of the time. I don't know if we have enough time to do another one. I'll just leave it at that. But and how can you get more? So in your map, let's go ahead, grab another piece of paper. Let's do it real fast. It's important to do this. So you'll put your name in the middle, in the circle. And so in next to you, around you, are the things that people, places, things, etc. that reduce your stress. People, your cat, goldfish, butterfly flying by, doesn't matter. It's just something that reduces your stress. Some people have stress reduction practices. Okay, then on the outside, identify the people, places, things, etc. that are causing you stress. For many of my patients, it's been because a lot of them are dealing with immigration issues. It could be ICE, it could be immigrations, it could be going to dialysis again, etc. It could be a lot of things. So just think about, but for yourself, just to use this as a personal way, you know how to generalize this out. So when you look at your map and you look at the things that, you know, the things that reduce your stress, how can you get more of that? Look for that. You want to fill your life with more of that. And then with the people, places, and things that are causing you stress, how do you get less of that? And of course, stress is an important thing. There's you know, something called eustress, which is like positive stress. I mean, without a deadline, most people wouldn't do anything. So that's stressful, but it's not a negative stress. And so, but then there's also things that, you know, I don't want to go into all the brain stuff and the neuro reactivity and hormones, etc. But, you know, bad stress does bad things to people, and chronic stress does worse things to people. So it's important for us to work as practitioners and as human beings on this planet to reduce stress for ourselves, but also the people around us, to find ways to bring more wellness. Okay. So, and then I also wanted you to talk the map and the table of influence. When I talk about table, I'm like, who do you want at your table? So at this point, I'll briefly describe the Urban Health Institute Safety Community Safety Project called Unidos y Seguros, United and Safe, United Well. The genesis of testimonios, the implementation, and where the participants are today. So part of my position for a long time, I was the sole bilingual psychotherapist at the Johns Hopkins Community Psychiatry Clinic. And I was the only bilingual therapist. And in doing that, and I'll skip to the testimonials part, because there were so few resources, a community, a central soul, which was invented basically as a center of excellence for Latino health at Johns Hopkins Bayview, was casting around for ways to make mental health practices more available to more people. And what we came up with was something called testimonios, which is basically, you're testifying to your own testament to your own life. And so is at first in person, now it's Zoom, but it'll be in person eventually. But it's an approach, and it's ongoing for 5 years, where people who speak Spanish, who are in our community, can come together. There's groups of men and women, the men 2 times a month, women 2 times a month. And we discuss stress reduction strategies. And it's a way of a place literally of learning how to reduce stress. Out of so many of those conversations, though, we noticed that a lot of the stress was caused by situational violence or community level violence against the Latino population. And so we were a group of practitioners and researchers and community leaders were able to get together and get a small grant for something, a program to reduce violence. And so by empowering people's awareness. So that's where Unidos y Seguros was born. And we used the echo maps as a way of just basically helping people understand what are their strengths, what are their risks, and what do they need to ameliorate the risks and improve their safety. And what was really interesting that came out of that was, and also another part of that program was, first they did the 2 sessions of the echo mapping, their own echo map, and then the community echo map, and they compared it all. And then we aggregated all that. And the second, the third, and then we talked about mental health and stress reduction with psychiatrists. Then we also invited various folks from the law enforcement field to come in and do a show and tell. This is what a sheriff's office, sheriff's uniform looks like. This is what the police can do, et cetera, to demystify and destigmatize to some extent, to some degree, law enforcement's impact on the immigrant community. And then the last was really gathering of the police department, the chief of the police department, as well as the other community leaders involved in building peace in the city. This was a long time ago. It's already 5 years ago. But one of the things that's important about this is that the echo maps were implemented. People would say, like, if you could say, pick out 2 things that are actionable. One of them was like, well, we need more street lamps. Well, how do we get more street lights? Because darkness and corners were totally problematic. And it caused stress, and it caused robberies, it caused a lot of things. This is, what's good for one group is usually good for everybody. So that was important. Another thing that action was very important is community cleanup drives, not just to clean up every so often, but like regularly getting out there and making sure the bushes are cut back and that the field of vision was okay. One of the very coolest things that I remember is one of the police officers said, go outside of your house at night and look in, see what you can see. And people were shocked at oh, there's your big screen television sitting right there. And now it's like window shopping. So learning how to do things that were helpful to reduce their risk. What does this have to do with echo mapping for peace? Well, it's part of me, like my first original topic was sort of like huge and expansive, but being me, I forgot to put echo mapping in it. So, but basically you can use this technique tool to garner the information of people in a way that is really, really impactful, but also you can give this to your community leaders. You can go with them and say, hey, we had a community meeting and this is what people came up with. It feels safer also than making lists. It's like really putting yourself at the center of everything and looking at what impacts your world, but also your community. So the focus of Unidos y Seguros was right here, to help Latino immigrants and their families understand and process the mental health consequences of community level trauma. Introduce ecological mapping as a graphical portrayal of the ecological systems that encompass each individual family, and to increase awareness of the relationships that can aid each family or individual in realizing their full potential in the urban environment. The urban environment, in this case being Baltimore. Increase self-confidence, navigating urban neighborhoods and streets with specific situational awareness and practical self-defense skills. Let me emphasize, it wasn't like karate or anything. It's just learning to, like, one thing I learned is, like, when you want to check your phone, instead of just stopping in the middle of the street and looking down at your phone, go over to a wall, put your back against the wall so you can see on either side of you. That's a self-defense skill. And I thought that was really, really a really good tip. I use it all the time because I'm checking my phone all the time. So, and solicit, whoops, sorry. Solicit strategies for community healing from Latino immigrant participants. This is just one example of how we use it on more of a meta level, but this is something you can use in any community. You know, each community has its own needs, its own way of looking at things, resources and lack of resources. So I'm just only using this as an example. So just to let you know, where are the participants now? So a lot of the participants, there are about 45 people over the year program. So Comité Latino was a program that was developing at the same time as the project was running, and what it is a community. It basically is a community association located in Southeast Baltimore that does amazing work in the community, not just in that physical area, but like for all of Baltimore. And people have, you know, some of the participants were participants in the formation of that group. Many people have gone on to realize their, you know, get training at Central Soul, or become more involved in projects at Casa Maryland, or the Latino Racial Justice Circle, or BUILD, which is a more of a, I'm not sure what it stands for, so forgive me, but so I don't want to make it up. But I think it's Baltimoreans United. And so, but it's a group of churches and faith communities that have come together all over Baltimore, but also the, you know, the No Boundaries and No Boundaries neighborhood, and just a bunch of groups that that participants have become involved in. And if you go over to the Southeast, you know, I'm not taking any credit for this at all, but I'm really very moved by when I see vibrant commercial retail corridors. And one of them is over in Eastern Avenue, another one is up on Greenman Avenue, and, you know, all of this city things are starting to emerge. So here's your post test. You don't have to answer this back. Actually, I would like, I'd like a thumbs up for each one of these answers, okay? So, can you, participant, describe an eco map? Thumbs up. All right. Can you, participant, name at least one thing that eco mapping is used for? Yes, okay. And 3, can you use an eco map to help you personally and or as a member of a community identifying threats, resources, and solutions? Okay, anyway, let me see what the time is here. Sorry, whoops, it's 1 o'clock on the dot. So I'm gonna stop and let Melissa speak. I have to thank you all. I have one more little thing to do. And if you can stay for 1 minute. Once again, let's do the metta and relax, because we've talked about things that are a little hard. So again, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be free from suffering. May I be well. May I be at peace. And may I be joyful. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you be joyful. This is for everything. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be well. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be joyful. Thank you all. And my contact information is listed on the last slide. It's my understanding that you'll have access to these slides. And I'd love to hear from any and all of you. It's been a wonderful time. It's been a very quick hour, and I'm hoping that you all received what you need from it. And it's been an honor spending the lunchtime with you. And so in healing, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for being part of the healing of our city.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you for this very practical information. And thank each of you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again for our brown bag in September. Remember, be well. Take care. Bye-bye.